Yo, we got Rob from the OC. You won the giveaway from last week, Comic Fam. We're talking the hottest comics in the world. What's good, Comic Fam? At the table, virtually broadcasting from somewhere on Spaceship Earth. We got the leader of the Gempire on the line, the Kingpin, Gem from Gem and Collectibles. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good as always, and it's only right that I introduce number 10 on the list. We're talking about Amazing Spider-Man 50, the first appearance of the Kingpin, and also the Spider-Man No More story. Now, there's a rumor that Kingpin may appear in the Hawkeye show on Disney+. There's also a rumor that Vincent D'Onofrio might reprise his role, which would be amazing. We're talking about a CGC 2.0, a book that sold for $400 in June, up 20%, now selling for $480. A CGC 2.5, which sold for $585 back in May, that's up 4%, now selling for $610. And then a 5.5, a nice mid-grade copy for this Silver Age Spider-Man key, a book that sold for $1,500 back in June, up 7%, selling for $1,600.
What if Vincent D'Onofrio reprised his role as the Kingpin? What if the Comic Fam hit the like button and we hit 1,000 likes today? Can we do it? What if they hit the subscribe button? Well, at the list at number 9, we're talking Uatu. We're talking Fantastic Four issue number 13, the first appearance of the Watcher.
It's also the first appearance of the Red Ghost and his super apes, but I don't think anyone cares about that. It's all about the Watcher. A CGC 1.5 sold for $215 back in October of 2020. It's up 85%, now selling for $400.
But the 2.5 back in 2019 went for $285, and that's up 75% this week. Butch says hi. We also have a 6.0. Back in June, could have been secured for $1,303, up 2%. Now selling for a whopping $1,325. Gem, is it because of Disney's What If?
Definitely, especially because it's greenlit for a season 2, so you know we're going to see more of The Watcher.
And at the list at number 8, we're talking pre-code horror. We're talking golden age goodness. We're talking a guest on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the creator of Bad Idea, Dinesh Shamdasani.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me, man. Excited to be back.
Dude, it's so good to see you, man. How you feeling? You're helping out on the Hot 10 this week with some golden age pre-code horror. I love it.
Surprise guest entry. I was excited to do it. I couldn't resist. Pre-code horror, EC Comics, they had me.
That's right. Why don't you start them off at number 8?
Sure. Okay, so number 8, Shock Suspense Stories number 6, which is, if anyone doesn't know what EC Comics is, let me just say right now, it is perhaps the greatest publisher in the history of comics for a number of reasons. Pre-Marvel, well, I should say pre-Stan Lee Marvel. So you're looking at the birth of the comic book as we know it, the format, 22 pages. They invented the anthology. They pioneered horror comics, romance comics, science fiction comics, my favorite part of EC. The whole tenor, though, that tone that we think of as Stan Lee and Excelsior, that actually came from William Gaines, came from EC, the bullpen, EC. There's a treasure trove of stuff if you want to deep dive into history of the EC comics. Shock Suspense Stories number 6, probably in the top 3 most important comics. The cover itself, anti-hate story. The cover actually just sold the original art recently. I should have mentioned this in the entry, for something like $800,000 at auction. I think it's the highest sale for a piece of original art in American comics outside of Crumb, who does independent comics. So that's a big deal. It shows you that EC is still very, very viable. EC is still very, very viable. But not only that, EC's been taken off. Pre-code horror. It's been huge of late. Ignored for decades, really. Lately, and I think it's people like you, Tom, I think it's the internet is getting people excited about seeing just how far they push the content pre the comics code. People starting to get behind this stuff. Crime Suspense Story 22, my favorite, Punch Comics number 12, Vault of Horror number 12. And we're seeing a lot of these books really take off now. We talked about in the Hot 10 how Shock Suspense Stories number 6 did. We had a 6.0 trade at $1,700, a 4.5 at $1,300. This is a previous high of $1,000. And then even a 1.0, that's an entry-level copy. That's the cheapest copy you can get into this book now, $700. This is a book that just 5 years ago, you would see at every convention, $100. Now it's 7 times that. Can't find copies.
Pre-code horror is indeed hot, Dinesh. Now, you also mentioned some other fan favorites that hit the market as of late. I'm looking at a Vault of Horror number 12 that broke records.
Yes, Vault of Horror number 12, often cited as the first horror comic. It absolutely is not. Eerie Comics predates it by about 3 years. So anyone that owns that comic and they want the first horror comic, go grab yourself an Eerie Comics number 1. Still reasonable when compared to Vault of Horror number 12. But a copy of Vault of Horror number 12 in 5.5 grade sold recently for $4,400. That's a big number for a book, again, that just a couple years ago was sitting at every convention booth at maybe 1/10 that price.
Yeah, I'm looking here. The previous high record was $1,300 for that. What gains?
Yes, nicely done. What William gains.
That's right. And we also have Ghostly Weird issue number 122 and 8.0 traded this week.
Yeah, and this is one of the earliest variants I know. So this isn't a variant copy. There's two versions of this book. I'm not sure if it's a printing error or they colored it differently. They're both neon colored. And this is the great L.B. Cole, who, if you don't know L.B. Cole, he's one of the all-time great cover artists. Check this book out. This book, again, I've been seeing this book everywhere. I haven't picked up a copy. I wish I had. $13,000 for an 8.0. As you get to the higher grades, these books really take off because the comic book burnings of the 50s, they just aren't high grade. There isn't inventory at all, let alone high grade copies.
Am I seeing this right? The last recorded sale at this grade was $920.
Yes, that's the kind of attention that we're now seeing on these pre-code horror books.
1,000% increase since the last recorded sale. Hot damn, comic fam. Dinesh, you actually did some tributes to the Golden Age horror with your recent passive aggressive release that made the trending video recently.
We did a book called Hero Trade Passive Aggressive, and we did two versions, one for the East Coast, one for the West Coast. Same cover, different interiors, but because we're big comic book nerds, we did a little homage to the pre-code horror book. So if you take a look at David Lapham's cover for that book, and you take a look at the great Lee Elias from Punch Comics 12, you'll see our little version of that.
Comic fam, we have Dinesh on the line today. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. And Dinesh, tell me it ain't so. Bad Idea can't be ending, is it?
That is over as we know it. A little delayed thanks to the printer crisis and the paper crisis, but we are determined this company will be done. It will be over as we know it.
Comic fam, keep up with Bad Idea's industry-changing moves over on Instagram at Bad Idea Hello. And Dinesh, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for the help, Dinesh. Maybe it wasn't such a bad idea to get you on the show. Moving on to number 7, we have Iron Man 55, the first appearance of Thanos, the first appearance of Drax the Destroyer, and the first cameo appearance of Eros, aka Star Fox.
This book ranked at number 6 on our list last week. Bronze Age brilliance, Jim Starlin goodness, multiple key appearances, and with a cameo of Eros, it made this book relevant again. Regardless, with the Thanos appearance, which is arguably Marvel's biggest villain to have ever hit the screen. The 7.5 back in May hit $960. That's up 15% this week, going for $1,100 strong. The 9.0 hit $2,000 back in September. That's up 5% this week, hitting $2,100. Steady increases for a major key book.
All right, Tom, you got to chill. Number 6 on the list, we're talking about Batman 121, the first appearance of Mr. Freeze, who was originally called Mr. Zero.
I love the direction that DC took this villain, becoming one of my favorite characters in the Batman lineage, post-Batman animated series, and Mignola drawing him in such a badass way. This is a book that sells so well, doesn't he?
Yeah, man, when I used to move key issues, Marvel books always flew, and it was so hard to move DC books. This was one of the few that would fly every time I had it. We have a CGC 1.5 that sold for $875 back in 2019, up 34%, now selling for $1,171.
The 4.5 back in April could have been secured for $2,650. That's up 6%, now landing at $2,800.
But hold up, the 7.0 sold for $8,000 back in August. It's up 28%, breaking the 5-figure mark, selling for $10,250.
What's this? At number 5, a major Marvel Jack Kirby blue chip key that may be undervalued. What? Journey into Mystery 83, the first appearance of Thor.
And the first appearance of Thor's mighty hammer, Mjolnir.
That's right. We have a 1.8 hitting $7,200 back in August. That's up 6% this week, selling for $7,600. Also, we have a 3.0 back in August going for $10,500. There were 2 different sales, one of $12,655 and the new record leader, increase of 24% since that last sale back in August, now selling for $13,000.
But get this, that mid-grade 5.5 sold for $20,500 back in June, and that's up 15%, selling for $23,580.
Now, here's the thing that we want to compare. I love this analysis over on Key Collector Comics, the best comic app in existence, to get a grasp on how the market is performing, to get your knowledge on as it pertains to key comics and appearances and information. Use code TOM101 for a free 2-week subscription. Support the show. There was a breakdown comparing this book to another major Marvel blue chip key, Hulk #1. Jem, off the cuff, what would you say is more popular as a character, whether it's in the MCU or comic books, Thor or Hulk? Go.
I think easily Hulk used to be the more popular character. I mean, he was the face of Marvel forever, along with The Thing, which is sad to see how he fell off. But I think recently Thor has been gaining in popularity with his movie appearances and with his recent comic book runs.
Well, let's take a look at Thor on the screen, about to hit his 4th movie. Hulk, unfortunately, because of IP and licensing issues, Mark Ruffalo and producers Kevin Feige have both voiced their concerns and frustrations and inability to bring Hulk to the screen in his own solo movie. More people have seen Thor in recent time than Hulk, who is featured alongside so many other characters.
Yeah, and then if you look at the comics, Thor had a legendary run recently by Jason Aaron, which is being adapted into the Love and Thunder movie. Then Donny Cates took over my favorite superhero comic. And even though Hulk did have Immortal Hulk and Donny Cates is going to be taken over, it just hasn't had the same oomph as those big runs.
Immortal Hulk was legendary, absolutely, but I don't think anybody's kidding themselves that they're going to see this adaptation hit the screen anytime soon.
So considering all those facts, let's take a look at Hulk 1 vs. Journey into Mystery 83. Let's look at a 3.0. The Hulk 1 sells for $23,000, whereas that Journey into Mystery 83 only sells for $11K.
The 5.5 Hulk 1 will hit $30,000, where a 5.5 Jim 83 will hit only $20,000.
And I think we've kind of highlighted Thor's gaining popularity. It's not really reflected in their first appearances, but also Hulk 1 has the Hulk in the trade dress, whereas Thor's first appearance is Journey into Mystery, so maybe not as strong as a key book. The 7.0, a high-grade copy for a Silver Age blue chip key, Hulk 1 selling for $70K, whereas Jim 83, $38,000.
Regardless of where you settle, even if you're a little bit in the middle, a $30,000 difference in price for this comic book is astronomical. And if you look at the census count, it's gonna make even less sense, proving that Thor is undervalued because it's not a scarcity problem. The 3.0, Hulk 1, 202 copies on the census, compared to Journey 83 at a 3.0, 215, near the same.
Same with the 5.5. There's 100 graded copies of Hulk 1, and there's 108 copies of Jim 83.
Then we have the 7.0, the $30,000 discrepancy. 66 copies exist of Hulk 1, and 78 copies exist of Journey into Mystery 83. Clearly, Thor is undervalued. Will we see an uptick? Keep an eye out for our God of Thunder.
That's a great analysis and amazing graph, Zorro. Now let's move on from gods to doctors. We're talking about Fantastic Four issue 5, the first appearance of Victor Von Doom.
We have the origin of Victor Von Doom. We have speculation that started back in November 2020, suggesting that we're going to see Dr. Doom in the Black Panther sequel and other MCU projects. We have a 3.5 back in July, selling for $9,300, up 23% this week, now selling for $11,400.
The 5.0 is doing good as well. It sold for $15,600 back in August, up 15%, now selling for $18,000.
Then we have an 8.5, but not from the standard grading companies that we follow. We have a PGX 8.5. And to give you perspective on this next sale, the prior record for an 8.5 graded Fantastic Four issue number 5 was $54,000. This past week, an 8.5 in a PGX slab went for $50K. Now, this is $4,000 less. However, I suspect that had this been in a different graded slab, this record would have been blown out the water. Point in case, let's take a look at PGX versus CGC as it pertains to another major Bronze Age blue chip book, Giant Size X-Men #1.
Yeah, man, people have trust issues with PGX. Take a look at these sales. A CGC 9.8 sold for $34,999 back on March 8th. But the PGX 9.8 on March 20th sold for just $21,575.
A $13,500 difference in under 15 days. Was it an anomaly? When you look at the next month's sale, the 9.8 graded by CGC, it appears that it wasn't. April 18th, Giant Size X-Men 1 selling for $49,100.
With that being said, the PGX 8.5 coming just $4,000 short of the record. Who knows what's going to happen when a CGC 8.5 hits the market? Could it hit 60, 65, 70?
I think it could. I think it could see some gains, just like Thor 165 has at the list at number 3. The first full appearance and cover appearance of him, who would later be named Warlock. Adam Warlock, the Cocoon guy.
We still have Adam Warlock hype ever since Will Poulter announced he'll be playing the character on screen in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The sales keep rolling in. A CGC 3.5 sold for $350 in July. It's up 29%, now selling for $450.
We have a 6.5 going for $1,015 last week. We had an $1,100 sale and a second sale for $1,200, which is 18% up since last week's prior record.
And then we have a 7.5 breaking 2 records. It sold for $1,580 just 2 weeks ago. First, we had a record-breaking sale at $1,775, and then with a 22% increase, selling for $1,923.
Now at the list at number 2, a book that made last week's list at number 1. Comic fam, we've been doing this video every single week for over a year straight without skipping a beat. Hit the link in the description if you want to support the show. Go to comictom101.com and join the November mystery mail call. Give me an excuse to send you comics to your door every single month. 1 per box. Every member is getting a Venom number 1 Raph Grassetti Venom variant. Also 1 per box. We have a House of Slaughter, 1 version, not both, going out to the community at random. A cover done wonderfully by Davi Go, House of Slaughter number 1. James Tynan goodness going out to every member. Now, we have to stop. We have to talk about the Black Adam. We got to talk about Shazam issue number 25.
That's right, it's the second appearance of Black Adam in an original story. I mean, it's basically the key to get. The first appearance is a Golden Age book, Marvel Family 1, hard to get. This is the one to get. So we're looking at a CGC 8.5. Now, just a slight increase, just 1%. But the 7.5 showed some huge gains. A CGC 7.5 sold for $358 last week, and it's up 82%, now selling for $650.
Then we have the 9.6, which we're seeing some major price correction, because I'll remind the community that we saw a 9.8 sell for $7,000 just last week. Well, the 9.6 this week did not disappoint. Last record put it in September for $1,500, doubled in price, 100% increase, selling for $3,000.
And now, moving on to number 1 on our list, the hottest comic book in the world.
Hit that like, slap the subscribe. One of you are going to win this House of Slaughter number 1, foil 1 in 25. And let's chat about
Fantastic Four, issue 94, the first appearance of Agatha Harkness, which is Reed Richards' nanny, but plays a much bigger role in the MCU.
She's the mentor to Scarlet Witch. She has Ebony, the Demon Gato, and we have major record breakers, including a new leading 9.8 that we haven't seen hit the market since early this year. 3.0, selling for $35 back in 2016, is up 366%. Hot damn, comic fam, selling for $163.
The 6.0 sold for $295 just 2 weeks ago, up 29%, selling for $380.
Then we have the 9.8. Last record was set back in March for $1,250. Then Disney Plus continued to happen. Continued to spike comics. Catherine Hahn slated for her own solo series, reprising her role, justifying the new 477% increase. Yes, that's right. We have a new 9.8 leader at $7,500. Comic fam, hit that like, slap the subscribe, and as always,
geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
Enough said. Big shout out to our new sponsor of the show, Whatnot. We are packing the house over on the best new app to buy and sell comic books, and I'm calling it Whatnot Wednesdays. I'm bringing all my homies, some of the most trusted dealers in the comic book community. We got Nerdy Girl Comics, Skeleton, Key, Sammy, and Tony, Rage, Theo, the Golden Age Guru, Comic Pops, My Faja, Milgeek Comics, the Comic Sensei, and Overstreet Price Guide Advisor, and myself. 7 hours packed of dollar bid start auctions that only last 60 seconds long. Never thought it would be so fun. Link in the description. Go follow my page and support the show. And also take a look at these other videos. We made them for you. Enjoy them.